My name is Nurl Atiqa, student from Lincoln University. I'm currently in my 4th semester major in Bachelor of Art in Mass Communication. Today I would like to do a presentation for the subject Mass Communication, Concepts and Theories. The assignment title given was Describe the Model of Communication. Here goes the introduction. What is communication model? A communication model is a pictorial representation of the communication process, ideas, thought or concept through diagrams and more. They can be considered to be systematic representation of the process that help us understand how communication can be carried out. In the communication process, sender, message, media, and receiver are associated. Communication process starts with the transmission of message by communicator and end with receiver's feedback. When this communication process is represented through a line or picture, it is called communication model, which in other words, pictorial presentation of communication process is known as communication model. The importance of communication models. Firstly, it is to optimize your communication channels to make sure you have a better communication. Second, it is art to work on your past mistake, and it can help with changing information and getting knowledge for certainty so that you won't repeat the same mistake and you can prove it. And lastly, it are to plan efficiently in the future, which it helps for everyone to make a plan by it to make sure things are going well. There are 3 categories in communication model, which are linear model, transactional models, and interactional models. The first one is linear model. The linear model of communication describes communication as linear or one-way process in which a sender intentionally transmits a message to receiver. This model focuses on the sender and messages within a communication encounter. Although the receiver is included in the model, this role is viewed as more of a target or an endpoint rather than part of an ongoing process. These linear communication models are included Aristotle model, Lees-Whale model, Shannon-Weaver model, and lastly Berlow SMCR model. Aristotle, a Greek philosopher, initiated the earliest mass communication model called Aristotle's model of communication. Aristotle's models were designed to examine how to become a better and more persuasive communicator, and it focused on public speaking than interpersonal communication. It formed with 5 basic elements, which are speaker, speech, occasion, audience, and lastly effect. Speaker, the one who conveys the message. Speech, the message. Occasion, where, when, why the message is being conveyed. Target audience, to whom the message is to be conveyed. Effect, the impact the message create. Lees-Whale's model. It is about process of communication and its function to society. There are 3 functions for communication: surveillance of the environment, correlation of components of society, and cultural transmission between generations. It suggests the message flow in a multicultural society with multiple audience. The flow of message is through various channels. The Lees-Whale's communication model describes verbal communication and consists 5 elements that are used an analysis tool for evaluating the entire communication process. Who says, what, in which channel, to whom, with what effect. Who, the component. This is the communicator, also called the sender, who formulates and spreads a message. The sender can also be an intermediary. Analysis. This is about a management and audit analysis that help the sender to have the power to communicate. What? Component. This is the content of the message or the message that are the sender spreads. And the analysis for what is the content analysis is related to the aim of the message and or the secondary intent. Which channel? The component is the channel describes the medium or media that is used to convey and spread the message. The medium can consist of several communication tools, mass media and social media. Analysis. The media analysis shows which medium is best used to convey a message to the receiver as effectively possible. To whom? Component. This describes the receivers such as a target group of an individual made with mass communication versus an audience. Analysis. The target analysis shows who the message is meant for and how they are best reached and influenced. Which effect? Component. The effect is the result the message leads to. That's the so-called triangle of success. Knowledge. Attitude. Behavior is often used to be desired effect. Analysis. The effect analysis will need to be started beforehand so the message can aim and fit it to the target audience. Shannon-Weaver model. It designed to develop the effective communication between sender and receiver. It deals with various concepts like information source, transmitter, noise, channel, message, receiver, information, destination, and code and decode. It stressed the importance of encoding and decoding messages for them to be transmitted. This was the first model to acknowledge the existence of noise in communication that could disrupt or alter message. This noise could refer to something like the static on a radio broadcast, but it could also include spelling errors in written communication or the receiver mishearing the message. Berlor's SMCR model. Berlor's model followed the SMCR model and not specific to any particular communication. It have number of factors under each of the elements. Berlor's model believed that for effective communication to take place, the source and the receivers need to be on the same level. Then communication will happen. The source and the receiver should be similar. Berlor's model explains communication in 4 steps. This model provides a throughout account of the key elements in every one of the steps that will affect the manner in which message is communicated. Sources. The elements that include in the source of the senders, communication skills, attitude, and culture. Message. The elements included in message are the content, structure, and code of the message. Channel. The elements included in channel are the sense of hearing, seeing, touching, smelling, and more. Receiver. The elements of the receiver are the attitude, knowledge, and culture. The second communication model is transactional models. Transactional models are the most dynamic communication models. Transactional models highlight two-way communication with direct feedback. It refers to the exchange of message or information between the sender and the receiver, where each takes turns to send or receive message. This model is the most general model of communication, as even our daily interaction are instances of transactional model communications. Transactional model becomes more efficient and effective when the participants are of similar environment, know each other, and share the same social system. Each person in the process reacts depending upon factors such as their background, experience, attitude, cultural belief, and self-esteem. Proper choice of channels enhance the efficiency and reliability of the communicated message. The transactional communication models include Barlown's transactional model, Dance's helical models. Barlown's transactional model. Barlown's transactional model is a multi-layer feedback system. This is a continuous process where the sender and receiver interchanges their places and both are equally important. The message passing takes place with a constant feedback being provided from both parties. A feedback for one is the message for the other. Cues refers to the sign for doing something. As per Barlown's, there are public cues, private cues, and behavioral cues. In the model diagram shown in the slide, spiral lines give graphic representation to the assumption like public cues and private cues. Public cues, also known as CPU, are physical, environmental, or artificial and natural or man-made. Private cues, also known as CPR, are also known as private objects of orientation, which include sense of a person. Both these cues can be verbal as well as non-verbal. Another set of cues are behavioral cues. Behavioral cues can be verbal, which is also known as CBEHV, and as well as non-verbal, also known as CBEHNV. The arrows and their direction shows that the message is intentionally sent and actively taken, where the receiver plays a key role of giving feedback. Arrows also shows the process of production of technical encoding, interpretation, and decoding. The jagged line shows that the availability of cues can be unlimited and denoted as VVVV. The valence signs plus, 0 and minus are also attached to this type of cues, which illustrate the amount, degree, strength of attractiveness of the cues in the message. Speech refers to the particular instance of communication in the model. Filters are the realities of people engaged in communication. Here are the senders and receiver. Personal filters might differ according to culture, tradition, content, or the message. Noise is the problem that arises in communication flow and disturb message flow. Dense's helical model. According to Dense's helical model, communication is seen as a circular process that gets more and more complex as communication progresses. That is why it is represented by a helical spiral. With every cycle of communication, we expand our circle, and each communication encounter is different from the previous one because communication never repeats itself. Additionally, in the process of communication, the feedback we get from the other party involved influence our next statement, and we become more knowledgeable with every new cycle. And lastly, the third communication model is interactional models. As more dynamic models, interactive model of communication refers to two-way communication with feedback. However, feedback is not simultaneous, but rather slow and indirect. Interactive models are used in internet-based and mediated communication, which is also known as telephone, conversation, letters, and more. The interactional communication models include Osgood-Scram model, Weasley, and McLean models. Osgood-Scram's model. It is a circular model, so that communication is something circular in nature. This model breaks the sender and receiver model. It seems communication in a practical way, and it is not a traditional model. It can happen within one or two people, where each person acts as both sender and receiver, and hence use interpretation. Semantic noise is a concept introduced here. It occurs when sender and receiver apply different meaning to the same message. It happens mostly because of words and phrases. For example, technical language. So certain words and phrases will cause you to deviate from the actual meaning of the communication. Wesley and McLean models. These models can be seen two contexts, interpersonal and mass communication. And the point of difference between interpersonal and mass communication is the feedback. In interpersonal, the feedback is direct and fast, meanwhile in the mass, the feedback is indirect and slow. The communication for this model begins only when a person receives message from surroundings. Each receiver responds to the message they receive based on their object of orientation. As you can see in the image attached in the slides, X1, X2, X3, and X4 are news article of information, while F is for feedback, where feedback is crucial for this model because it makes this model circular rather than linear. As a matter of fact, feedback influences how messages are sent. The A in the box is known as a source or a sender. It is the person who creates and sends a message. B. It is known for receiver or audience. The receiver is the person who receives the message from the sender in mass communication. A receiver is a person that watches TV, reads a newspaper, and read online news and more. And lastly, the C. What is the C mean? Is a gatekeeper. It is element usually occurs in mass communication rather than in interpersonal communication. Gatekeepers are editor of the message sender are trying to communicate to receivers. For example, these are newspaper editors that edit the message before it reaches the readers. In conclusion, an organization's standard communication system can be built up with the use of communication model inputs to guarantee effective communication. That is all from me, Nurl Atiqa, for today's mass communication concept and theories presentation. Thank you.